Hi, boys and girls. This is Grandma Sheilla, and our story this week is called The Lost Purse. Well, now, Dereck, he had just gotten home from school, and as soon as he went into the kitchen, his mother said, "Dereck, could you please run down to the store and get me a few things?" And Dereck said, "Sure, Mom. What you need?" She said, well, here's a list of the things. And she held up a little coin purse. And she said, I put the money all in there. There should be plenty for what I need. She said, but please be careful with it. Well, Dereck was a big kid. He stuffed it in his pocket and he said, sure, Mom, I'll take real good care of it. I'll be back just as soon as I can. So out the door he ran. He went down the street, and as he was going, he passed some of his friends playing in the little empty lot. And they called out to him, hey, Dereck, come play. We could use another player. Dereck said, no, I can't come now. I got to go to the store for my mom. Maybe if I hurry, I can come back and play before supper. So they waved goodbye at him. Then, as he was going down the street, he saw some of the men working on a hole in the road. And one of the guys looked up, and Dereck waved at him. And the guy nodded his head and waved back. Well, his mother had also, besides the coin purse, she had given him a paper, and she said, stop at your auntie's on your way. I promised her this paper. Can you just stop while you're going and give it to her? So Dereck had the paper under one arm, and of course he had that little coin purse stuffed in his pocket. So he made his way to his aunt's house, and he went up the sidewalk, he knocked on the door, and Auntie came to the door and she said, well, hi, Dereck, come in. And he said, Mom sent this paper for you. And she said, oh, good, I wanted to see that newspaper. And she said, did you just come all this way to bring it to me? Dereck said, no, Mom wants me to get some groceries, so I have a list and the money, so I need to get right going, okay? She said, all right, well, thank you so much for bringing the paper to me. So Dereck headed to the store. He grabbed one of the carts, and it's kind of fun to be all by yourself with money in your pocket and a cart of your own and a list of food to put in the cart. He felt kind of important. So he went around through the store and he got everything on that list. And as he went, he kept in his mind checking off everything. Yep, he had everything she wanted. And not one thing more. Well, he got up to the counter and the lady rang it up and she said, that will be $7.27. And he said, oh, great. So he reached in his pocket to pull out that little coin purse, and it wasn't there. He stuck the other hand in the other pocket, and he came back empty too. He pulled both of his pockets out, but there was no money, no little purse anywhere. He looked in his coat pockets. He looked in his shirt pockets. It was just gone. And he looked at the lady. He was embarrassed. He said, I must have dropped it somewhere. Can you just sit the bags aside and I'll try to go find it? Well, the lady was very understanding. You know, people lose things once in a while. So Dereck headed out. Dereck headed out the door of the store, and he went down the road that he had come on. He looked everywhere. He looked at the edges of the yards that he passed. Finally, he got to his aunt's house. He thought, maybe I set it down at my aunt's and just don't remember. So he went up and he knocked on the door, and his aunt came to the door and she said, well, Dereck, I'm surprised to see you back so soon. And Dereck came in and his head kind of sunk. Oh, and he said, Auntie, I've lost the purse with the money in it. I've looked everywhere. Well, his aunt said, well, let's look around here. Maybe it fell out here when you sat down to talk to me. So they looked in the sides of the couches and the chairs. Maybe it had fallen down behind the pillows. They looked everywhere. They looked through her kitchen, in her dining room, in her living room, every room that he had been in. Then Auntie went outside and they looked through her yard. They looked down the street, on the sidewalk, but they couldn't find anything. And Auntie said, you know, God knows where it is. Let's go back in the house and kneel down and talk to God about it. And so that's what they did. And Auntie prayed. And she said, Dear Jesus, you know how important the money is to Dereck's mother. Please, you know where the purse is. Please help us to find it. And we know that we can trust you. Thank you. In your name, amen. Well, Dereck said, I guess I better just go home and tell Mom. And then his auntie came up behind him and she said, Here. And she handed him a $10 bill. She said, Go buy the things that your mother needed. She can pay me back sometime later. So Dereck trudged back to the store. He paid the lady. He gave her that $10 and she gave him back the change. He put the change in the bag with the groceries and he started carrying those 2 bags home. When he got home, he knew he had to tell his mom. And he set the groceries down. His mother said, Oh, good, I'm glad you're here. I needed some of that for supper. And Dereck said, Mom, I lost the purse. I don't know where it went. I looked everywhere. I looked at Auntie's house. I looked up and down the street. I looked on the sidewalk. I looked everywhere. But I couldn't find it, Mom. And when I stopped to look at Auntie's, she gave me $10. And the change is in the bag. She said you could pay her back. That God would find it for us and have it returned. Well, Mother just sighed. She didn't say a lot. She didn't scold Dereck. She knew that Dereck was generally careful with his things. So she went back to making dinner. Well, Dereck, he didn't feel like playing with the boys on the ball field. But his little brothers and sisters were outside playing, so he went out and he sat on the porch and watched them play. Well, pretty soon his mother came out and she said, "Come on, kids, supper's ready. Come in." And then she looked up and she said, "Dereck, the gate's open. Would you go shut the gate before you come in?" So Dereck got up from the porch and he walked over to the gate and was just getting ready to shut it when, quick as a flash, through that gate ran a little dog. And that dog looked up at him like it was so pleased with itself. And he thought, I've never seen you anywhere here. And then the dog rushed over to him and dropped something right at his feet. Dereck looked down, and there was that little purse. And he very reverently opened it up, and all the money was still inside. He looked at the dog and he got down and he patted it. He said, "Where did you find it, boy?" But of course, the dog couldn't answer. He just grinned. Eric ran up to his mom and he said, "Look, that dog, that dog brought it back." And Mom said, "That dog doesn't live on our street. I've never seen it before. How did he know where to bring it?" And Dereck, he looked at Mom and he said, "The dog probably didn't know where we lived, but Mom, God does." And it was a happy family that went back in the house and thanked God for returning the lost money and purse. I've told you before that God uses all sorts of people, animals, circumstances to make His will happen. And it must have been God's will that Dereck got his mom's purse and money back. And prayer is the best way to get an answer. And God is always willing and waiting to answer your prayers and your needs. Thank you, boys and girls, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.